What to do, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the third album by the Black Eyed Peas. Basically, this album came out in the summer of 2003, and it's called Elephunk. So the thing about this project is it kind of kicked off their 2000s era domination. They acquired Fergie on this album, and this was kind of the album that started to break through for them, where I feel like Monkey Business was definitely the one that had like the most flashiness and really got them their crestability, apart from the END from 2009, which also was a pretty massive album. But this is kind of one, this is kind of the entry one that just kind of kicked things off, and it was really kind of a surprising album. It took me a little bit to review this project, but I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to get a pretty rave score, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to give it like a 7 or an 8 out of 10, but it's actually going to get a higher score than that. So it was just kind of an off the wall and random project that I didn't expect, just because Monkey Business, I want to say I gave that like a 7 or an 8 or something. I don't remember what I gave it. I reviewed it back in March, but this one is going to get a higher score than that. And it was just kind of strange that this album just kind of had that apex as far as that kind of one. This is definitely a highlighted album, did a lot of things, was a blue collar album, had a lot of, it had, it was just kind of pop rapish, but also kind of a blue collar album, and just had an amalgamation of styles. They don't stick with one particular style too oftenly on here. They have a number of things that they try out. So it was just kind of interesting to kind of get this. It was just kind of interesting to kind of get this amalgamation of a project. I mean, definitely for 2003, this was pretty state of the art. I just would have to say this is definitely one that kind of did a lot more things. I mean, yeah, rap was kind of going through like the Southern fried hip hop and gangster rap and some of those type things. Things like Manny Fresh, Lil Wayne, 50 Cent, some of those type people, Ludacris, some of those type folks. But this was kind of like an extra pocket of rap music that was just kind of underappreciated. I don't know. I want to say that this album at least went platinum. I mean, it had 4 singles off of here, and they all did pretty well. 3 out of 4 of them did well in America, with the exception of Shut Up. But just apart from that, I would have to say that this was a pretty successful album. Definitely kind of like a miniature version, at least in terms of commercial success, where I feel like Monkey Business probably had the higher charting singles and was at least a little bit more commercial and outsold this project. I'd say that Elephunk is probably the better album between the two of them. It just didn't have the sheer, like Fergie was more on fire with her hooks on Monkey Business, and will.i.am and the rest of the band, Apple to App and Taboo were also kind of, they just had more crafted singles. They kind of fleshed out this sound from 2003 on their 2005 album Elephunk, but I like this one better. It's going to get a higher score and such. That just kind of happens to be a thing. It's just kind of an alternative rap kind of album. It's just kind of an alternative rap kind of album that just was kind of in a different pocket, and as far as that kind of went, it was pop rap, and I can't think of too many pop rap albums. When I think of like 2003, when you think of things like Eminem, 50 Cent, Ludacris, some of those type people, this is about one of the few ones, because Common wasn't really dominating back then, and this was kind of before Kanye West came out. So it's just kind of, these were like pretty much the de facto ones to go to if you're looking for more of like backpacker and pop rap type feels in a more healthy sense compared to like some of the stuff that was out. And that was just kind of the thing about it. It's definitely a good alternative to that sort of mixture, but I mean, it does have some edgy songs on here, so that's definitely kind of the thing. It does have some club bops on here, and they do kind of step out just in a healthier kind of sense. But I like quite a few songs on this album. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the singles. I'm also going to add to the fact that Europe really adored this album. This album was quite successful in Europe. All 4 of the singles did excellent over there, and just internationally, this album did pretty well. So it's just interesting that it took America a little bit longer to warm up to this album. But the first single was Where Is the Love, and this kind of has an uncredited feature from Justin Timberlake on the hook. This is a pretty excellent song. It's pretty just straightforward, and like being day commute and that type stuff. It's very thought driven song, has political commentary and social commentary on here. It's just a nice blue collar kind of song, and it's just overall kind of one of those ones for makeshift kind of music back in 2003. It wasn't all the time that rap music kind of did makeshift in 2003. This wasn't very often, but this is one that if you were watching the news back in 2003 and you knew about things other than September 11th and George Bush and some of that type stuff from 2002, 2003, this is the kind of music that you probably heard as far as that kind of went. It was just kind of one of those situations that kind of worked. Just a great first single to kind of kick off the album. Just deserved the success it got. And it's not really a party song or a get crunk song, but it is just kind of like a day commute, just kind of going through the motions of day-to-day sequences as far as that kind of goes. So that's a great first single. The second single is Shut Up, and this one didn't quite chart as well in America. It hit like 30 on the rhythmic charts or something like that out of 40, 38 or something like that. But this is another one that this is kind of not quite a club type song or a dance type song. They kind of eased into like kicking off some of their more riveting kind of moments where they just were trying to establish like more kind of sounds for like the kind of contemporary type stuff, or at least kind of more social kind of moments. And by social, I mean just like day to day kind of sequences. I'm saying social like I mean dancing, but I mean more day to day kind of sequences. But Shut Up, it's kind of a tied up song. This is kind of a relationship song that feels like evening makeshift. It definitely has some nice kind of like covert kind of sounding productions later on in the verses as these kind of go, but it has a real nice hook on here, and this just feels like a song that you'd listen to kind of 6 o'clock 5:30 p.m. as you're getting off work, as that kind of goes. So it's interesting that Black Eyed Peas had two makeshift songs just like that, just for kind of the regular kind of day commute, just trying to establish that kind of sound and kind of have some of those. So these are both two good songs just for kind of just got off work or being at work, or just those kind of moments for just like the standard day and evening kind of malaise. So these are both good good 1-2 punch for makeshift as far as that kind of goes. It has a great hook on here. Fergie does a pretty good job on here. Fergie does a great job on the hook on Shut Up. This is another one that just has a lot of polish, and these are just two good ones that really have that kind of particular vibe. But now to get to some of the recreational songs, these were the two kind of more festive moments, and these are kind of the ones that kind of eased Black Eyed Peas into their more festive kind of moments on like Monkey Business and some of that, because they just kind of went forth from 2004 to about 2006 with these type songs. So I mean, yeah, you could almost consider Hey Mama and Let's Get It Started as a part of the cycle for Monkey Business, because they are very similar to those songs that they would do later. But Hey Mama is the third single, and this is like a regular dance bop. This is kind of just an easy kind of dance club kind of song. It's a nice entry song, an ice breaking kind of song. Great icebreaker for a dance night and that type of stuff. Probably just like a song you'd hear at like 6:30, 7 p.m., something like that. Just kind of has like some good energy for that. Just an easy kind of club highlight and dance highlight. It's just very healthy and just kind of more kind of like not necessarily PG, but just PG in terms of just like not having like ravenous kind of energy as far as that kind of goes. I mean, it's ravenous in terms of the dance vibes, but just in terms of the lyrics, it's not like profane or something like that. So it's just kind of this real nice entry kind of dance bop, and just I definitely recommend this song as like an icebreaker. It's just an overall good one. Let's Get It Started is the fourth single, and this has the notches turned up a little bit more compared to Hey Mama and that type of stuff. It's definitely a pretty dominant song out of the summer of 2004. It was one of the more boiling kind of songs. Definitely lasted for a good while, but both these songs, Hey Mama and Let's Get It Started, were pretty much Black Eyed Peas' dominance in 2004, basically over a year after the album came out. So both these are just quality hits, and they capitalize on this song. If you definitely know about these two songs, I would recommend Monkey Business if you don't know about it, because that just has more songs like these two. These are both recreational kind of ones. Let's Get It Started is definitely, like I said, not just turned up a little bit more compared to Hey Mama, a little bit more ferocious kind of energy. It's a dance cut, definite dance highlight, but I feel like this one's kind of more of like an 8 o'clock p.m. dance boiler, where I feel like if Hey Mama's kind of more light, where I feel like if Hey Mama's kind of a lighter oriented type song for 6:30, 7 o'clock, this one's kind of more of like an 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock at latest kind of dance boiler. I mean, this is still kind of healthy and kind of less profane dance music, but I feel like these are still pretty good gems for having a pretty decent night. It's just kind of more dancing and a more blue collar and more healthy kind of sense as far as that kind of goes. But these are just good ones. I mean, you have to understand that these lyrics are pretty solid and they make some pretty excellent dance club cuts. Just they're less profane as far as that kind of goes. But I do like the concept of these. Yeah, the version of the album that I own is the 14 song album, which has has Let's Get It Started as the fourth song, and then it has Third Eye as like the 15th song. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about because there's two versions of Let's Get It Started. The other one is Let's Get Retarded, but I prefer the Let's Get It Started song. It's just an easier one. But there are 15 songs on here if you count the Third Eye track that's kind of hidden and tacked on to Let's Get It Started. So I would have to say out of 14 songs on here, there's 10 I recommend. So it's easier to talk about the 4 songs I didn't enjoy, which I didn't like: Third Eye, the Apple song, Latin Girls, and Smells Like Funk. So I'll go ahead and talk about those songs first so we can get to the highlights. Like Smells Like Funk, I didn't really like the approach to this song. It was just kind of an awkward, kind of produced one. It was trying to be kind of like a kind of funky kind of tune, something 70s like, and just the context of it just didn't quite work for me. And Latin Girls is trying to be like a Latin type song, obviously with that being for Latin girls. But the thing I didn't like about this song was it was just a pretty lengthy song, and about 3 minutes or 4 minutes or so into the song, and just kind of switches to just instrumentation, which I think that they should just made it like a 3.5 or 4 minute song, and then just kind of did it that way, because I did like the Latin orientation, but it's just more of a lengthier song than what I would have wanted to listen to. And then the Apple song, and then the Apple song was just kind of a more sluggish and kind of down tempo, thought provoking song that I just didn't enjoy as much. And then it was the same thing with like Third Eye, except that one was just kind of like an awkward kind of that one was just kind of a random kind of funkadelic kind of one that I just didn't appreciate as much. They do try to do some funk on here that just doesn't quite work as well. I think that's one of the few styles trying to pull off some of those kind of more psychedelic kind of vibes that just didn't quite work as well, or at least kind of funk, Parliament type songs or something like that. I just didn't really like Third Eye that much, but I'm gonna give this album a 10 out of 10. I'm just gonna go ahead and say now I'm gonna give this album a 10 out of 10 because I did like 10 out of 13 songs. If we don't count the bonus song Third Eye, I like 10 songs out of 13, which just 3 songs me not liking is basically a 10 out of 10. But the bonus song I didn't like. I mean, I could give it a 9.5 or a 9.75, but I'm just going to go ahead and give it a 10 just because out of all 13 of the regular songs on this edition, I did like 10 of them. So to talk about some of these, like I feel like a pretty good highlight on here that's just a nice one, kind of a surprising one, is Labor Day. It's a holiday. This one has like a real East Coast kind of sunny day type feel, like you're going out and shopping, getting like a Subway sandwich, a hot dog, something like that. This has a real nice city traverse kind of feel. Just an overall highlight. This really feels like a nice warm day for stepping out and just hopping through the city and that type stuff. I'd say Hands Up is a nice one too. Hands Up is a nice one too. Now, Wikipedia says about this song that they felt like it was kind of more Southern fried, but I see this as more of like an East Coast kind of bop. This is definitely kind of another city hopping tune, definitely for going through the buildings and I definitely see this as kind of being like maybe going through hotels, places with lobbies, that type of stuff, going by some of these places where you just would be in like the big cities, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, some of those type places. As far as that kind of goes, just I kind of see this song as like a song to get tipsy to. It's just kind of slurred out a little bit, where maybe you have a few drinks in your system, you're just going through the city, enjoying the times, buying some clothes, some stuff like that, just kind of shopping and hop and bop, that type stuff. Just kind of a having fun type song, just kind of in a more elegant and East Coast kind of sense. So it's definitely a nice one. I mean, I'm not sure if Black Eyed Peas are East Coast. I mean, it seems like some of these kind of have that feel, but they don't overly convey it. But I did notice a couple ones like that on here. But kind of a nice surprise is Anxiety. This one has Papa Roach on here, so this is basically like a Black Eyed Peas song. It's like hearing will.i.am and Apple the App on like a Papa Roach song. It's just a real nice one. It was interesting that they pulled that song off and was able to do it. This is like a very overcast day kind of beat on here. The instrumentation, what Papa Roach gives them, they kind of gave them like one of those kind of post grunge kind of day commute kind of songs that just is kind of thoughtful and just kind of has that ruminating kind of energy when you think of some of those. Like I'm trying to think of a song that Papa Roach did. Like this, like the typical kind of second or third single is just kind of more introspective and kind of one you just cruise around to in your car and just kind of listen to and just kind of, or it's just kind of alternative. This one was more alternative metal. It's not so much like, this is not like the song that you got from Anxiety. This is not like Last Resort Papa Roach, but this is kind of more maybe Angels and Insects or something like that. That this was kind of more of a thought provoking kind of one in terms of just being overcast and just kind of that concept of this kind of more thought provoking and being kind of overcast and more of like a ruminating kind of vibe. I mean, there are rock songs that kind of do this. I can't think of them right at this moment. That's kind of the concept about it. Has a real nice cameo. The band does a great job, and even Jacoby Shaddix is on the song. He kind of helps with the hooks. That's a good, nice one. The Boogie That Bee was a real surprising one. This is definitely a pretty good highlight on here. It's probably one of the best songs on here. This is just a very synthy kind of club jam. Definitely gives some electronic, electro pop kind of vibes on here. It's just a great one. The Boogie That Bee is a real nice highlight on here. This is a nice synthy kind of club jam with some good electro pop kind of feels towards it. It's just an overall good stepping out kind of vibe. This is another one that's kind of healthy, pop rap kind of feel towards it, but I did like the fact that they at least did kind of like a crunchy kind of club synthy type vibe that they did on here. So it's just kind of a good one to get. I wasn't expecting them to do it. I kind of figured that they would have done more songs like like something more kind of just like Where Is the Love or something like that. But this is just a good kind of club jam in just more of a healthy sense. So not all club moments have to be like, posturing and that type of stuff, but it is good. Fly Away is a real surprising song. This one's just kind of a Fergie exclusive, but I kind of like the feel. I almost would have won. Fly Away is a Fergie exclusive kind of song, and I kind of wanted the rest of Black Eyed Peas to kind of be on here. I mean, Fergie does a pretty good job on here. This feels like a Fergie solo song. I would have liked will.i.am, Apple the App, and Taboo on here. It would have been interesting to have kind of gotten that, but this is like a really slurred out kind of night venue hopping kind of song. Definitely kind of a bachelor song. This talks about uh, letting people down that you are trying to set free so you don't have to keep hooking up with them in that sort of sense. But it's just kind of, I see this as just more of like a bachelor kind of song. It's just very slurred out. It's kind of like a more kind of crunchy and just tipsy version of Boogie That Bee or something like that. Flyaway is just kind of a night venue hopping type feel. Can kind of be a club song, but also kind of be like a wing stop kind of place, getting some dinner, that type of stuff. Just evening kind of hopping, pub crawls, those sorts of moments. Just an overall kind of synthy, kind of slurred, or just an overall kind of slurred out, very kind of blurry kind of song. Definitely like that one. Yeah, here's another highlight. One of the last songs to talk about on here is Sexy. This is real kind of hotel, kind of sophisticated kind of song. Definitely just has like that very kind of jazzy type feel towards it. It's just a jazzy kind of bop, just a lady song at that. This is another nice one for the ladies. Has a very ritzy kind of feel. This feels like you're meeting up with some chick at a hotel, that type of stuff. Just kind of having some charming kind of vibes. This kind of overall has like a nice kind of ritzy kind of feel. I just really like this one. This kind of suave. I mean, this is just kind of a suave one. Kind of makes you wish that there were more songs like Hotel on this album, the way that this song hit the net as well as it did. It's just a very ritzy kind of feel, and this overall had a lot of emphasis that it pulled off extremely well. So that was just kind of the thing. But yeah, to basically talk about these songs, me liking 10 songs out of 13 on the regular edition, not counting the hidden track Third Eye, I give this album a 10 out of 10. The social score, I'll go ahead and give a 10 out of 10 also because it had some blue collar songs, definitely had some powerful emphasis as far as like the topics that it had some East Coast kind of sunny days, stepping out kind of tunes and city hopping, had some club moments, had some hotel moments, had like a rock rap kind of song that was just kind of an overcast day. This is kind of another ruminating song I forgot to mention by with Papa Roach. Anxiety with Papa Roach is kind of a ruminating kind of song. Had four great singles, two blue collar and kind of makeshift songs, and two dance club songs. It just had a lot of amalgamations and packages that it pulled off. It's very varietized, but it executed it pretty damn well. That just really happens to be a thing. So it just gets a 10 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10 social. In terms of the future, Black Eyed Peas put out an album in 2022. They don't have Fergie anymore, but I would have to say there are some other highlights. Eventually, I'm going to review like the END and the beginning and some of those albums from. I'm going to review some of those albums from 2009, 2010, and some later ones and that type of stuff. But they've only really recently been back for like the past 4 or 5 years. They took like 8 or 9 years off after they dropped their 2010 album. So there is some more stuff. Definitely like this album's an excellent highlight, and I feel like it's just a surprising kind of one that I wasn't expecting to give a 10 out of 10, but it definitely has the quality quite well, and it's just, you got some good stuff. It's a very healthy and less profane kind of album, but in terms of like having an alternative to the standard, most of the time gangsta rap type stuff that kind of goes along and that type of stuff, this is just kind of a refreshing album that has food for thought and just overall good palettes of stuff.